When you're looking for who could be a good partner for my business, it really is creating that, I call it win-win-win, right? You want your organization, you want to win and get some benefit out of it. The organization you're partnering with gets to grow and get some benefit out of it. And then somehow the end customer, end user, they're getting a benefit out of it. Because if everyone is in it for moving the ship forward together, you're going to have a lot better results than.
Welcome to the Women Choosing Growth podcast, where we bring you practical advice and guidance on how to grow your business and achieve success in your entrepreneurial journey. We feature inspiring stories of success, challenges of growth, and lessons learned from women entrepreneurs, industry experts, and thought leaders who have been through the growing pains inevitable as an entrepreneur. Whether you are just getting started or are looking to scale up your business, our show is designed to provide you with the tools, resources, and community you need to grow your business. Join your host, Tina, a lifelong entrepreneur and business growth advisor, as we explore topics such as marketing, sales, finance, leadership, and personal growth, all tailored specifically to the needs of women entrepreneurs. So if you're ready to grow your business faster and smarter, and learn from the experiences of those who have traveled the growth path before you, then this podcast is for you. Thanks for tuning in, and let's get started.
Welcome back, ladies, to another episode of Women Choosing Growth. I am your host, Tina Sue. Today's guest is Katrina Padron, founder of Wake Me Up When I'm Famous and I Heart Brand Partners. And she is here with us today and sharing her expertise on how to grow without the grind. Her marketing adventure began in 2004 when flip phones were cutting edge and WordPress blogs still greeted you with "Hello World." With a master's in sociology from DePaul, she's always used her deep understanding of human behavior to navigate the ever-shifting marketing landscape. As a creative kid who cherished her Lisa Frank Trapper Keeper and still remembers the days of party line dial-up internet, she still grew her marketing agency to 7 figures and plus successfully, and now channels her expertise into leveraging partnerships for growth. With nearly 2 decades of experience, here she is to tell you that growth is not just about social media or the newest fad, but it's about making strategic partnerships. She shares not only what it really means to have a strategic partnership, but how to start being really intentional in who you partner with so that it is a triple win scenario. Let's get started. Welcome back, ladies. Our expert guest today is spot on when she says there's a gap in the conversation around how business owners can really grow without grinding themselves into dust. Everyone's chasing the same tired marketing tips: running ads, posting on social, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. But what if there was a simpler, more effective way? Well, there is. It's creating strong partnerships. And our expert to share the magic of partnerships is none other than Katrina Padron. Did I say her name right?
Padron.
Let's talk a little bit about your success. You have an amazing scaling company. You've exited successfully. You have had multiple podcasts with numbers I hope to reach with our podcast. But I assume that all did not come easily. Would you share with us how you got started and how this growth really went for you?
Yeah, well, it wasn't an easy journey by any means. I've been in marketing for 20 years. And when I look back early in my career, I was doing things like writing radio spots, putting print ads in a newspaper. I set up a first email campaign for the company that I worked for. And so it's been such an interesting and long road. But really, 13 years ago, when I struck out on my own, it was because my son was 2, I was pregnant with my daughter. The company I worked for had been on a wage freeze due to some economic issues. And basically, I took my salary, backed out taxes, backed out daycare for 2 kids, and I would make $0. And something about that many things about that just did not say, not
Math does
something.
not work.
No,
Yeah.
the math was not mathing. And I'm like, there has got to be a better way. Even if I just had one freelance client, like I'd be doing better. And this was at a time where people were like, remote business isn't a thing. There's no way you're ever going to work when the babies are sleeping, all of that. And I did it anyway. And so I started freelancing and just grew from there. And, there was a lot of hustle and hard work and tears. And it was kind of exhausting, very exhausting. But 13 years later, I do have a business that I'm really proud of, and I can share about some of the pivots I've been through during that business journey. But that's where it all started.
Yes, we love to hear the pivots because we all know it's not easy. So, share some of
Yeah.
those. Maybe if you had any setbacks, or when
Mhm.
a lot of us think like, "What the hell are we doing being in business?" Many times through
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
journey. So,
I think one of the biggest things for me is we often get told advice, right? Of like, okay, you need to reach this milestone. And to do this, especially if you have like a marketing agency or a service based business, the whole model out there, the existing model is you have to hire more team members and that's how you scale. And one of the biggest areas of burnout that I ever faced was when I had a team of 17. And keep in mind, like this business, our family counts on and relies on the revenue and income that comes from this business, but also I'm sort of that primary parent where I'm dropping off kids, picking up kids, doing the after school thing and doing the domestic duties of the household. And so there has to be some sort of boundary. And I found that when I grew to 17 team members, there was no boundary. My Slack was on all morning, all night, from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed. I suffered from pretty intense insomnia. I would check my Slack, from 1 to 3 a.m. And my whole philosophy was, well, if a team member pings me, that means they're working on this project. And I want to get back to them right away so that they can keep moving forward. And the fact of the matter is, that's not sustainable. And burnout is not healthy or productive for anyone,
yeah.
So that was probably one of the biggest eye-opening pieces.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to like double down on the comment of just scaling does not mean just having more and more people at all.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and
really
the
about oh, go ahead.
well, and the other thing I wanna say about that is it just seemed like every time I grew, I would get big contracts in, I hired more people to service the contracts, but then I would essentially spend most of that, what would have been profit, on some middle level person to oversee the project, to oversee the team, that sort of thing, and so it just never, it never balanced out in a way that felt good to me.
Mhm. Yeah, and scaling, one of the key elements to scaling is having repeatable systems, as you mentioned briefly in
Yeah.
there. So it's not heads on your payroll. It's really
Yes.
about being able to run while you're out doing things with the kids or taking a vacation or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. So you can have two people in scale, or you can have 222 people, but it's
Yeah.
not the heads that matter. So we can do a whole other episode about what scaling really means. But so how did you get from that point to all of the things, the podcast, the expertise that you have today?
Yeah. So in the last couple of years, 3 years or so, I started working on partner programs for some of my clients that were really interested in finding other avenues outside of what's now called traditional digital marketing.
Mhm.
And it really took me back to like my old school marketing where I started. And what happened for them, they are a global software company and they sell to robotics engineers. And basically what they do is it is not super Instagrammy, it's not e-commerce, that sort of thing. And for them, I went on YouTube, I found robotics engineers who after work, they would make something cool, they would post it, they'd share how-to videos, and basically I said to them, "Hey, if are you using my client software? And if so, next time you post, would you be willing to say what you like about it and share this link?" And that campaign generated $11 million in the last 3 years. It's still going. I still work on it every day. But as that was happening, combined with the burnout that was happening on the digital marketing side of things, I was sitting there, I'm like, there's got to be some better way for me to scale, for me to have like more control. And I also realized if I work on partner programs, I will never have to write another Facebook post again. And that really lit up my soul. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's do that.
Like, we're all
Uh,
cheering, like, "No more Facebook, no more Instagram." That'd be great, and
right.
still have 11 million in revenue. That'd be wonderful.
That was the client that cracked the code for me. It was just, okay, so let's flip the switch. So I have a much smaller team now. It's me and one other person. And when you talk about scaling and repeatable systems, it is so framework. Like, yes, every company is different. And I come in, I do the deep dive for how a partnership program could work for them, and come up with a plan for that. But there's also some framework to it. There's, the way I see it, about 12 different ways a company could partner with another company, organization, association, or person. And we dig in and find out what is going to be the best way to build that.
Let's define partnerships, because I know when I've talked to different people in the past, they think partnerships are different. So when you're talking partnerships as like a key way to grow your business, what are you defining?
The way I look at it is another organization, association, or person who has some incentive to help the other business. Sometimes that incentive is money related. So if you're working with influencers, for example, they generally want to be paid upfront. So you pay them X amount, they create the content. That can be one type of partnership. Another type of partnership is channel partners. The channel partners generally do not take money up front, but some piece of their business growth is tied to this other business growth. So, an example of that is one of my clients in health tech basically helps more private practices get more procedures on the books. And we found that many marketing agencies, SEO, ad agencies are working with these private practices, and they are frustrated because they bring leads to the private practice, but because the private practice doesn't have a front desk person or someone replying to emails, or at least not quickly enough, the lead goes unanswered, and essentially the private practice loses the sale on that. So those marketing agencies want to work with my client because they're like, yeah, if you can get my leads to close, then I'm going to get to have this contract for so much longer than I would if the client tells me, nope, leads aren't closing. Sorry, they're not quality. So
Mhm.
that's, a couple examples of how partnerships can be used.
Yeah, so it's sort of the one to many, right? Instead of going
Yeah.
and getting one person from your Instagram or doing a sales call with one person you reached out to on LinkedIn, it's finding that right partner for your business to send
Mhm.
you multiple leads throughout the year and for years to come.
And it ladders up to what I feel strongly about now, which is we as business owners need to figure out ways to grow without the grind. And I've always called myself a grandma millennial. I'm sort of at that older cusp. And I think so many of us were taught to, you gotta hustle. And that's what I did to start. And it didn't leave me in a place where I felt like myself or very healthy, quite honestly. And
Mhm.
so if you're going one to many, your effort to do that is going to be substantially less than having to go, get 100 clients on your own, sort of thing.
Now that maths.
Yeah, I like math that math.
Exactly. I can do one effort, one
Mhm.
conversation, and get multiple leads or clients.
Yeah,
And I'd imagine if you're finding these partnerships, like you can help those people, like the example you gave, like it's a
mhm.
win-win. It's some of them. Sometimes, I mean, the influencer is a win-win too because they get paid.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
totally makes sense. I like it. I can add the way that Cultivate Advisors and Cultivate Brands also grows through partnerships. We don't have salespeople; we have directors of partnership. So it's the same
so
mentality,
smart.
exactly. And we partner with other companies that are also working with small business owners, as that's who we are
Exactly,
serving. So, like financial services is one that we partner with a lot because financial advisors are dealing like we're growing profitability, they're taking profitability and growing that, and so it's like a
exactly.
win-win for us to work together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so it makes sense.
that's the biggest thing to keep in mind when you're looking for who could be a good partner for my business. It really is creating that, I call it win-win-win, right?
Yep.
You want your organization, you want to win and get some benefit out of it. The organization you're partnering with gets to grow and get some benefit out of it. And then somehow the end customer, end user, they're getting a benefit out of it because if everyone is in it for moving the ship forward together, you're going to have a
Mhm.
lot better results than, sometimes you see out there campaigns or programs where it's just like, okay, well, they did it for the money. Like you can just see right through it, sort of thing. There's no
Yeah.
authenticity. It doesn't make any sort of sense. And a lot of times when I'm working with clients too, they're like, well, why would someone want to be a channel partner for me? Why would they want to give me business? And it really starts from that business lens of you have to find some benefit or some angle. How does this help their business or association or organization?
Yes, I just had this conversation earlier this week, actually, with a client that was looking for partnerships, and we were talking about like how much they should give, right? Because they wanted to do a rev share to people who made
Mhm.
referrals, and we had the conversation about it's got to be enough to be mindful and top of mind because
Yeah.
all get so busy. I'm not thinking every day like who can I send a referral to, but if there's a decent amount of money that isn't hurting the margin of, the like the client I was working with, it's kind of
Mhm.
like that give and take, like what makes sense. Um,
Yeah.
so it is something that is top of mind if it isn't a completely beneficial for them to give you a referral. So
Yeah. Yeah.
money can be the win.
I agree with that. Rev share is great. People are motivated. So, but to
Yep.
your point, yeah, it's usually not that motivating for, $20 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's got to be a little more enticing.
Yeah, and it depends on what your product or service is. So if you're
Sure.
getting one referral that brings in $100,000, that rev share likely is going to be different than if you are getting $5,000 for the year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So where do people start? I know you mentioned like there's 12 different ways of connecting with partners. So our listeners who are thinking like, okay, this sounds great because I really want to stop the grind.
Yeah.
Where does one start even thinking about this?
So, first step I'd recommend is go to my website. It's wakemeupwhenimfamous.com. Right on the homepage, there's actually a link to the blog that tells you the 12 different ways. I would suggest reading that. Just get your wheels turning on what a partnership program might look for you. And there's little tips and examples in there of what that looks like in the real world.
Okay. And once they do that, then what's next?
And yep. And then second step, I produce quite a bit of content. And so they can sign up for an email newsletter. When they sign up for the email newsletter, they get access to about 1,500 media contacts that have podcasts or YouTube channels, and they also interview business owners. And the reason I give this is because so many of these businesses are doing something cool and awesome, but they just don't know how to get the word out. And this is a way to get the word out to many rather than, like we were talking about, making more Facebook posts or Instagramming all day. So
Hmm.
they can sign up for that. And then as a part of that, they'll also get some weekly emails that give ideas around how to build a partnership, um, examples in real life of businesses doing it that have done it successfully, just a lot of inspiration and insight into how all of that works.
Okay. So the goal of partnerships is really to do the one to many and not be relying on things that change every other day, like social media, right? Like
Yeah.
just when you figure it out, the algorithms changed and you're no longer getting as, many likes or follows. So for a company who maybe has been relying almost all of their time on social media, what's a great strategy to sort of start making the switch? Obviously, you're not going to cold turkey stop doing traditional social media. So,
Mhm.
what's your thoughts on that?
So, depending on the business type, but two of the lowest cost, easiest ways to build a partnership program would be one is referral partners and two is channel partners. So, referral partners, really, it's about building a culture internally of how does your account management team, project managers, how do they start getting referrals and putting some systems around that? Because the people who are in your business network, they're going to be the best word of mouth advocates anyway for your business. And then that's also quite a bit of content that you can start putting on social media that quite honestly just performs better from a conversion standpoint than a graphic or something like that. The other one is channel partners. And I really, really like this avenue for a lot of startups because, yes, you have to get a little bit creative. It takes some brain power, but it is such a low cost avenue to explore. And so once you get it going, there's high return for low cost. And then from there, if you want to start shifting your digital marketing efforts or social media efforts, then for sure you can do that. But it kind of gives you that opportunity to start, build something, get it going, and then grow without panicking about overhead and shifting budgets and all of that.
Can you define the channel partners versus like a regular, rev share partnership?
Yeah, so channel partners are businesses or organizations that have some tied incentive, and it's usually not a money incentive where my client would be paying the channel partner money. It's usually an incentive where the channel partner grows their business because they somehow are doing better. They're having longer retention times with their clients, or something in that realm
Hmm.
generally.
Can you give an example of that?
Yeah. So, a big example, you mean?
Like a real
Or
life example of where a channel partners makes
yep,
sense.
real life example. This is not one that I worked on, but everyone knows it, which is when Disney Plus launched a couple years ago, they had Verizon as one of their channel partners. So Verizon users got Disney Plus for free, whether they
Hmm.
wanted it or not. It gave them an
I was one of those
opportunity to
people.
try. Yeah, I was one of them too. I'm like, oh, really? Thanks.
I got three softwares that are three streaming services we didn't necessarily want.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I had younger kids at the time. I was pretty pumped about it. And,
Hmm.
when I log into my Verizon, I've had Verizon for 20 years. And I'm thinking, okay, well, at the time it was probably 10 or 12 bucks a month. I'm like, that's a nice little freebie gift. Thank you. So that kind of goes to that. And out of that, I think the numbers for Disney Plus, I think they launched with like 10 million subscribers. Huge channel partnership. So
Yeah.
Disney Plus is getting the win. Verizon is getting the win because there's loyalty and value add there. The end user is getting the win. The win. People like me are like, thanks, I appreciate that. So that could be an
Hmm.
example.
Okay. Yep. And I had given the example of the financial advisors with our advising services is a win-win. There's
Totally.
not money shared. It's just like we're all helping that third party, which is the client on both of our ends. That makes sense. Hey, incredible women entrepreneurs. It's Tina Sue here. I know you're juggling a lot, growing your business, managing family time, and trying to find balance. Deep down, you know you're capable of so much more. But maybe fear or uncertainty is holding you back from achieving that dream business, that dream life that you deserve. That's why I created the Dream Big, Plan Bigger guide, a game changer for your business growth. This isn't just another goal setting document, it's your personal roadmap to achieving the impossible. Imagine having a clear vision of your biggest dreams, breaking through the barriers that hold you back, and reigniting that passion that fuels your journey. This guide is your roadmap to doing just that without compromising your family time or your personal priorities. You deserve to see your business thrive and still have time for what you love. Let's take this journey together. Download your free Dream Big, Plan Bigger workbook now at tina-sue.com and start making those dreams a reality. Now, let's get back to the show. So, what else would, besides, really thinking about some of these partnerships, you're going to kind of tiptoe into it, get your list, right? And
Hmm.
pick what, two or three that makes sense for their business.
Yeah.
And most people want to do influencers. I keep finding like some clients are like, oh, that's the new fancy thing. But who really should be partnering with influencers?
So I love working with influencers, but I like working with the influencers who don't think they're influencers, who would be
Perfect.
offended if you call them influencers. So back to the robotics engineers that I worked with. I worked with over 100 of them. Not a single one would be like, oh, yeah, I'm an influencer. They're all, no, I'm a robotics engineer and I do this hobby. Um, the reason I like them is because there tends to be a lot of authenticity that comes out of that. Their audience knows, lives, and trusts them. And so there's higher conversions, on their content. Influencer wise, the reason I love them so much, and we all know influencers for e-commerce, for beauty brands, for CPG, that sort of thing, but I really love using influencers for B2B brands. And part of the reason is because most B2B brands are like, oh, influencers aren't for us. That's for makeup and coffee and smoothies.
Yeah.
And so there's not a lot of competition. So it is so much easier to stand out with some authentic influencers who, have built up an awesome audience based on what they do. And that's one of my biggest opportunities is in education. It's in educating B2B founders, business owners, what their opportunities are with influencers on various platforms.
What do you think about, you sort of mentioned it before, but like employees and or like the client, employee testimonials, client testimonials, would you consider that in a similar bucket of, it wouldn't be influencers because they probably don't have the
Mhm.
following that an influencer would have, but is that one of the ways to really grow the business without, you know, relying on the social media side?
I think it's a starting point that every business should just have. Like, why not use your happy customers to get more happy customers? You
Mhm.
know, we know very well, and if you, Amazon's a really great example of this. If you're scrolling through looking for ski goggles, you're going to look at the reviews, you're going to look at the stars. Those are all testimonials of people who like your product, and it works, right? If I am scrolling through looking for ski goggles and I see 5 stars versus 3.2, and the comments say, oh, it's kind of junky, it didn't hold up, the glass is fogged, I'm obviously going to go for the one with the good reviews. And so I think every business just needs to have some sort of referral program in place. And if possible, I know every business is different, but if possible, I would do my best to make sure that those testimonials are captured on video. Because again, you can then use that to fuel your content on social, email, blogs. You can have a whole page with that content. You can even use it in ads. Like if you are running your social ads, now you have this really great story of how your product or service was awesome.
Exactly. I mean, I'm glad that you mentioned that because I was going to say for me, even when I'm on Amazon, the
Yeah.
products that have like the woman trying on the pair of pants,
Yes.
those are
Yeah.
like the 5-star reviews don't matter as much as like I want to see what that looks like and
Yeah.
how happy you are with it, right? So
I
I'm
want to see
totally going
it.
to the videos all the time.
I always do that too. I wanna see, well, what's the fabric look like on your body? Or
Yes,
how does the fabric fit different body shapes? It's I just think it's so important.
I do. I love it. And I love how
Yeah.
they say like, okay, this person's, 5 foot
The
3 and
size.
this person is 6 foot 2 and they're wearing the same outfit. It's like, okay, I can
Yes,
figure that out from there. You can't from a picture. So
because obviously the model's going to look good on it, and that example is so great and relevant for me. I'm 5'2". The model is always 5'9", 5'10", so
yeah,
it just isn't going to look the same. So, yeah, I
exactly.
think whatever I mean, it's perfect for clothes and products, but even in business services, it's relevant. In tech, it's relevant, because people wanna see, "Oh, will this work for my type of company, my industry, or my vertical?"
I've definitely done that in every one of my businesses. It's got video testimonial,
Yeah.
even if those of you listening don't have a fancy studio or fancy microphones, like
Mhm.
literally a cell phone capturing a testimonial. And like you said, then you can use it on your social
Yeah.
media. You can use it in a um, potential client or potential customer's email. Like even you
Mhm.
put anything on YouTube and have a link, but um, that goes away from
Yeah.
like the partnerships. But when we're thinking about employees, like if you have a big employee base, that's a lot of people that could be giving referrals
That is.
right
There's a
internally.
tool out there that I really like. It's called videoask.com. And basically, you record a video of yourself asking, say, 3 questions. And the questions can be something like, why were you hesitant to buy or use this product or service? And what did you experience through this product or service? Or, questions like that. And you
Hmm.
send that link to the people you want to give a testimonial. And essentially, they record themselves just answering the questions that you're asking, and it's very much, it bridges that gap and makes it more conversational and authentic, because
Hmm.
sometimes I find if you send a list of questions, tell us what you liked about this product or service, people start to get really stiff, they don't know what to say, and then you're not getting as great of a video as you could be. So
Hmm.
that's a good platform. I think is wonderful for some more interactive, authentic sort of testimonials.
I love that. We'll put that in the show notes so they
Yeah.
can grab that as well.
Awesome.
So you have been instrumental in just framing the whole reason behind partnerships, what partnerships are, how they can grow a business, versus the daily grind, which is your mission to help people not be in the grind anymore,
It
not be
is.
stuck on social media.
Yeah.
What else am I not asking you that our audience should really know?
Okay, they need to know how to track their program because most people, most prospective clients that I'm talking to, they'll say something to me like, "Well, I tried that, but it didn't really work," sort of thing. And it's like, "Well, okay, well, let's talk about it. What did you do?" Oftentimes, it's a very mini sort of dabbling. Like they reached out to one person one time and they
Right, that
called it a
one
program.
testimonial.
Yeah, right. So so in that, I would say, hey, you really like commit, give it some time, whether it's 6 months or a year. It is a low cost thing. Try it out, put your effort in, but also on the front end, know what you're trying to track. So, depending on how you set up the program, if it's channel partners, you're going to want to track probably how many more meetings or demo calls or sales calls did I have that came from those partners. If it's influencers, you're absolutely going to want to track traffic, but then also conversions on that traffic. And if the conversion on your site is sign up for the free trial, you'll want to know how many free trial users each influencer sent. I'm a big fan of sort of doubling down on what's working. So when you look at your reporting of, okay, well, these are my top 20 influencers, but down here there's some like, yeah, they're sending traffic, but they're really not converting. I would say take those funds and reinvest in the top ones that are converting.
Okay. So tracking is important. And I
Mhm.
mean, hopefully, if people are spending their days in social media, they're tracking that as well. So,
Right, right.
yeah.
Totally.
Okay. So start out, find a partnership style or two, make sure you have the system set up to track it,
Yeah.
and be patient.
Be patient, but I tell you what, sometimes the universe just works out. Like I've had one project I was working on, it was just a 30-day project. And within that 30 days, she got one of the biggest contracts she's ever had. One of the people we reached out to as a channel partner was like, yep, I want to do this. And can you join a call tomorrow? So it just, there is some timing to it. But I find the biggest thing is commit to it.
Right. And I feel
Yeah.
like there isn't a one way. Like, we're not just finding these partners on LinkedIn. It's really about what their industry is, what it is that they're selling. Products or services are going to have completely different kinds of partnerships. Am I
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, you are right. So yes, sometimes I'm looking on LinkedIn and I'm pulling by job titles and industries. Sometimes I'm looking at, okay, who's exhibiting at these conferences? Who should we know? Sometimes I'm looking at who is a part of a startup community like Techstars, who has funding. I mean, that's part of the deep dive in building these programs is who are we trying to partner with? How are we going to find many of them, not just one or two, but enough to make a full program out of? And then how are we going to communicate with them? What's the ask? What do we need them to do? And how's it being tracked? Those are probably the biggest pillars of like what the program actually consists of.
I love that. And I would imagine franchise systems are a part of one of the options, right? Because, like, if you
Mhm.
get in with a corporate franchise of whatever, I mean, there's products and service franchises, then you have many people that you can work with. Like, if
Exactly.
you are doing some kind of marketing or social, like, you can automatically reach 200 potential franchisees or whatever the size of the franchisor is, right?
Franchisees are awesome. I have a client who we're doing exactly that model. They have an automotive franchise that became a client. The automotive franchise has hundreds of locations across the US. They also have monthly, quarterly, and annual meetings where they're talking about my client and saying how every franchisee needs to have this product in their locations. Like it's a really great way if you're going to spend your time. It's back to that one to many. Like if you're spending your time doing the efforts, the outreach, the presentations, you might as well do it to many of the people who could buy your product or service rather than
Exactly.
one, right? I think we can
Exactly.
all agree on that.
Yes. And you just get better at that too. So a
Yeah,
franchise, if you're working with so many, like you're honing in on that skill, that product, whatever it is, because you're just working with so many in that same industry for sure.
yeah, yep.
Love it. Okay. Any other thoughts that I'm not asking?
I think you did fantastic. I feel like people could go and just at least get their wheels turning to get something set up.
And if that seems overwhelming and they download your
Yeah.
list, we recommend go get the list. And then if you go, holy man, I don't know where to start, they can reach out to you, right? Is that how you're helping folks kind of
Yes.
navigate through that and consult
Yeah,
with
and
them?
so the next step, basically, we do a 15-minute fit call, and I can tell you, I have some specific questions I go through, and I can tell you if your business model is the type of business I can help, or also if you're at the stage where I can really help. Um, and so we do the 15-minute fit call. If you are a good fit, then we move to what's called the sphere of influence. Basically, I spend a week, I do a complete deep dive. I look at all the different ways a business could partner with other organizations. And I tell you which options are going to be the best fit and best path to travel. I also tell you the ones that are like, hey, this isn't even relevant for your business, so don't even spin your wheels there, which I think is also valuable,
For sure.
you know.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then from that, you could definitely take the plan. If you had someone on your marketing team, the plan is a very step-by-step sort of thing of what needs to happen. You could possibly implement it internally. If you don't have that right person on your team, I can implement it for you.
Okay. So it's sort of two steps. You get them started in the right direction after
Yeah,
doing a deep dive analysis, then they're going to work with you for that short period of time. But then if they wanted to, they could continue to work with you to implement.
exactly.
Cool. And we should remind them again, one of your clients made 11 million just with your assistance. So
They
it can be
did.
pretty impactful.
It is so fun to show up and work on that project when it just feels like, oh, we are chugging along and it's working. And that is not to say there's, not bumps or harder days and all of that, but looking at these partner programs compared to all of my work in 13 years on digital marketing, I see the numbers and I see how much more my clients are getting in revenue than they were with, say, social media posting. And so it energizes me. I've always been about getting results. I just find this to be the path of least resistance.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan, have advised clients for decades on one to many, just that
Yeah,
methodology, which is exactly what you're talking about. Like, how do we do one thing and reach many people? Uh,
exactly.
my story was similar, right? Little kids, when we're building our business, we didn't have the time to be doing one offs all the time. So it was a product of our own necessity to learn that skill.
Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting what comes out of the grit piece of starting and growing a business. I look at myself now 20 years into my career and I cannot believe the types of conversations I have with, high level people at very large enterprise companies, where I'm just like, 20 years ago, I couldn't even hold that conversation. But
Yep.
through this whole business owner journey, I'm like, oh, I got skills. I can understand their perspective and what's tied to the P&L, and that fans are never going to be aligned on the P&L. And like, I can step into their shoes in a way that without that 20 years of experience, I could never do.
Yes, I agree. We're around the same age and experience level. So I
Yeah.
often think, like, oh my gosh, when I was in my 20s, I didn't know anything and somehow I
I know.
was successful, but through a lot of hard, wrong turns and whatnot, like walking through mud for a few years.
It happens. That's how we all do it,
That's how we all
you
do
know?
it. That's why we're here today, sharing with the world our
Right.
expertise so that the people listening can be like, oh, I need to stop spending all my time and energy on how many followers I have, not converting into leads, and actually
Yeah.
go get some of these strategic partnerships so that you can grow your business with the one to many mentality.
Yeah.
grow without the grind. It's what you said, right?
I love it. I love
it.
it.
Well, we will share all of your links, information on your podcast, the link to your podcast as well, and also that software, and we'll put that in the show notes. So anyone interested in taking a look at that from you and or working with you, we have it in the show notes.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. The Women Choosing Growth Show is not just another podcast. It's a tribe of women helping each other grow. So please share this podcast with all the women entrepreneurs that you would love to see succeed. If you'd like to know more about customized business advising through Cultivate Advisors, download business tools, or sign up for upcoming events, visit www.womenchoosinggrowth.com. Once again, that's www.womenchoosinggrowth.com. Remember, we are in this together. See you on the next one.